for joining us today. It's this evening here in Northern Italy. A lot of us are going for our first level of certification with the ICF, the ACC level. So this is very timely that Elle approached me with this subject. So there's a lot of changes, and we wanted to share this with you. This is a special webinar in the helping hand for all of our coaches, just to hear what the updates are and to ask your questions. I want to welcome Elle Cronin. If you don't know Elle is a mentor coach. She's a PCC certified through the ICF. She's, of course, an IPEC grad, and she's one of our mentor coaches. Her and Stacy Campisi in the Helping Hand are our mentor coaches. She's been doing this for quite some time, and she also has the Mentor Coach podcast. So if you haven't caught that, you should check that out as well. So Elle, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Greg. Hi, coaches. I'm so excited that we're doing this work today. I plan to kind of go through the information for 30 minutes and then leave some 30 minutes for you guys to ask specific questions. If this is my email, thelifecoachL@gmail.com. If I'm also on Facebook, and I know some of you guys are already working with me as a mentor as part of your membership program. So if you have any questions, if you're going to take your CKA anytime soon and you want some tips and tricks furthermore than what the presentation is going to give you, just feel free. I just love this work. So feel free to reach out at any time. I want to talk about why ICF accreditation. I know that this is something that pops up all the time. Do I want to be a member? Do I want to even go after my ICF accreditation? What's in it for me? So the ICF is a self-regulating group who provides accountability to clients and the coach profession as well. So just like I was talking to Greg a little bit earlier, our profession is taking such a boom for the past couple years that even companies nowadays when they're asking for accreditation, when they're asking for leadership, for any sort of coaching background, they are more involved with the ICF. I'm also chair of professional development and program with the ICF chapter here in Arizona. So it's quite interesting to see the amount of work that the ICF Global in general is doing to reach out to companies to make sure that they understand that we are here as coaching profession. We're here to help them out, reach out to other coaches. So there is definitely a network that supports you. There is this accountability, and also the ethics part of it is what companies really enjoy. So for me, that's what is important. It gives me more credibility amongst other coach professionals. It helps funnel in elite coaches, and more companies are requiring it lately as the ICF continues to grow. If you are just in a position where you're coaching private clients and you're not dealing with a company, it is really for you to see what do you want to be as part of your accreditation. What does the accreditation mean to you, and what does that say to you? Because sometimes your clients are not really going to even care about if you have an accreditation or not. It's really for me, for my mindset, for how I show up as a coach. That's why it's important to me. So this is the lenses that I'm going to share with you guys today. Let's go just right down to business. So how does IPEC prepare you? Okay, so most likely you're right now going after your ACC, or you are going for your PCC. I had somebody from the Helping Hand the other day reach out and say, Elle, is it better to go to your ACC or to your PCC? And honestly, there is no difference in cost. There's no difference in the process. So if you are right now at about 200 hours, an example, you could go straight and get your ACC. But if you don't feel that you want to do that right now, you can hold off, get your 500 hours, and then go after your PCC. The process is the same. Nothing changes. There really is no pros and cons. So just keep that in mind. See what comes up for you after we talk about the process. So IPEC is an accredited coach training program. So that's the path that we're talking about. It's what we call ACTP. Why this is important? Because there are other coaching modalities. There are other coaching schools that only give you the the live webinars, the training, but they don't give you the mentor hours. They don't give you the assessment at the end. They don't give you the peer class, the peer coaches that we do with IPAC. So a credit coach training program, it's a one-stop shop. So if you went through IPAC, you are all taken care. You don't have to think too much about any other path. You are going through the ACTP path. So when it asks you how many hours of training you've had, IPAC has over 200 hours of training. The coaching hours in class is what makes the program accredited. The coaching, the mentor coaching, the peer classes, that's what makes the path of this of IPAC even beyond what's required for the ICF to be an accredited program. So you're getting a lot more through the program than just the actual coaching hours in the class. If you are wondering about your peer coaching hours, you often have 20 hours of peer coaching. So you have 2 clients during your process, and those are count towards pro bono. And we'll go over how many pro bono hours you can have for each category. But just know that as soon as you graduate, you already have 24 hours of pro bono. Your peer group, which I don't know if you guys are recent graduates, you might not have peer groups. They changed that to core. But back in my days, we had peer groups. So those peer groups don't count as coaching because they're more masterminds. You have your 10 discovery sessions that you are doing, your ELI session, your discovery sessions where you're asking people to if they want coaching or not. So those are their coaching sessions. You're having coaching conversations to discover if that's an ideal client for you or not. Those are your pro bono hours. So right now you're already at 34 hours. Then you have 5 hours of ELI debriefing. Back in my times, it was 5 hours. If it's a little bit more than, if you guys do more than 5 ELI debriefings, just how many hours of ELI debriefing you do, those are pro bono as well, okay? And then you have mentor coaching. So some schools don't offer mentor coaching, IPAC does. So you don't have, when you're ready to apply, you don't have to worry about getting extra mentor coaches. Where I come in is when you get recertified. That's really the only time that you and I will probably connect for you to get mentor coaching hours. A natural flowy understand of the ICF competencies. So if you graduated with ICF, I promise you, you are already pretty in tune and organically averse to the competencies. So what is a client coaching hour? What can I count as pro bono? What is pro bono versus what's paid? So like Greg and I was discussing earlier, a client coaching hour is 60 minutes of actual coaching with someone who has hired you as a coach and not any other capacity. So if right now you are coaching and also being a consultant, it is up to you to define when you're strategizing, when are you having really a consultant where you're actually giving answers, you're giving strategies, versus being in the coaching mindset that I always talk about, which is really that hour, that time where you're talking to your client where they know the answers and you just have the foundation of the coaching skill set. So sometimes when I was a consultant and I was also doing coaching, I had strategized in a way that I had in an hour with a client, I would count 30 minutes as a coaching session, and then after the coaching session I would finish the session and then jump into my consultant hat. So that's why it's very important for the client that you know, for you as well, that you know how you're showing up, if you're showing up as a consultant or you're showing up as a coach. Paid hours shall be any hours for which any kind of amount compensation. So let's talk about the barter. So the helping hand, all the hours that you have, because it is 2 people and you are coaching each other. It's not a triad, you're coaching each other. It's actually paid hours because I'm paying you with my service and you are paying me with your service. So that's really the reason why the Helping Hand is an accredited program for paid hours according to the ICF. only 25% of the minimum hours need to qualify for the credential can be pro bono hours. As a matter of fact, this year, because of COVID, only 20% of the hours actually need to be, 30% of the hours can be pro bono this year. So we'll go over what that means if you're going for your ACC. Now, if you have group coaching, so if you're teaching classes, you have group coaching. Group is 15 people or fewer. That's what the ICF counts. If you are doing a coaching in a session and there's people, you can count that as 1 hour. Regardless of how many people you have, up to 15, that's 1 hour. So that's also an area for you to look if you are in a company and you have meetings that you're running and you do some coaching with them, you can count those also as coaching hours. Now, here you are, you're getting ready for your ACC. You're either working towards your 100 hours or here you are, yes, I have 100 hours. This year, you only need 70 hours of paid hours. Remember, your barter hours count. And as far as paid hours, if you have a client, if you don't have a big roster of clients, but you wanted to increase your hours and continue practicing your coaching skills, you can have the barter where you coach each other, or you can have even somebody pay you $1. The ICF does not require you to get paid whatever it is that you imagine that you need to be getting paid for those hours. And then 30 hours can be pro bono. So I coach you and you coach me is considered paid. The pro bono is just really that I'm coaching people and there's nothing in return. You need to have a minimum of 8 clients and 25 hours. So if you're going to go take your exam, I think somebody's going to take your exam on Sunday. I think it's Chris. If you're going to take your exam and you're getting your hours for the ACC, so at least 25 hours from your 100 hours, 25 hours of that roster has to be at least in the last 18 months. So here's where it gets tricky. If you're coming back into coaching and you took 2 years off, that's totally okay. You just have to work back to having 25 hours in the last 18 months. Now you go through the process and you either pay $100 to get your credential if you are a member of the ICF. If you're not a member of the ICF, then you pay $300. Now let's talk about PCC. It's 500 hours. So again, if you are right on that 300 hour mark, you can either get your ACC right now, or you can wait and get your PCC later. The process is the same, and if you get your ACC now and then you go and get your extra 200 hours and you go for your PCC, you don't have to do the process all over again. You just get your PCC, and that's really about it. You don't have to retake the test. So like I said, the process is the same. It doesn't change anything. So 450 of those 500 hours must be paid. You must have an active a roster of 25 past clients. And 50 hours of those 500 hours has to have occurred in the last 18 months. You do not need additional mentor hours. Again, the mentor hours that the Helping Hand provides is for you to identify your unique traits as a coach and to understand the coaching core competencies further, but it's not for you to actually need to pass any of your accreditation. You have enough mentor hours from IPAC, so you're okay. You also don't have to submit a video. I know that there's tons of people, if you go into other groups on LinkedIn, there's always people talking about they have to submit a 30-minute video for the ICF. Because you're an IPAC graduate and you already did that with IPAC, you already submitted your recording, you don't have to submit anything extra for the ICF. For your PCC, if you're a member, it's $300. If you're not a member, it's $500. Your credential is good for 3 years. When your 3 years is up, you should have 40 CCUs, which is continuing education, which now with a helping hand, thanks to Greg, you already have 12 credits every year that you accumulate. It's huge, you guys, because it actually costs money to get credits outside of the helping hand. And you will need an additional 10 hours of mentor hours. So at that point, if you're getting a recertification, we can talk about on how to support you to get recertified. So again, ACC to PCC does not take the test again. You just submit paperwork. Easy peasy. Now, let's talk about MCC. That's just where I am. I'm working towards my MCC now. You have to have 35 clients. You have to have extra 10 hours with approved mentor coaching. So I have to be coached at this point by somebody that is an MCC. I do have to have a session recording. So if you are on the same boat, you're on your PCC right now, and you have this dream and aspiration to go after your MCC, you have to your hours start recounting. So I have to have 2,500 hours after I accumulate my PCC. So after those 500, I have to accumulate 2,500 hours. Just focus on those competencies alone with my clients and a roster of at least 35 clients. So let's get to the log, okay? I know Greg and I have talked about this, and I know some of you guys talked about this. It does not have to be cumbersome, okay? It does not have to be this crazy log. Honestly, all I have is the client name, the information. I only have their email, and I mark if it's an individual or a group, and if it is a group, how many was in that group, and the start date and the end date. And if I mark that was paid hours or pro bono. So you do however you do. This is your log. Not every coach gets to be, the ICF doesn't go after every coach to see your log, because there is this trust that it is really self-driven. So it is really for you to organize your thoughts, to really see where you are with your hours. And for me, I just know how many sessions I had. So my log actually looks slightly different from what the ICF recommends. And I just have how many sessions I had with that person, and if it was a 30-minute session or if it was an hour session. And if I had groups, I know that I can have up to 15. So I never have groups more than 15. So at that point, I count those hours just the same way as I would as a client. So if you have any questions, if you're getting crazy with all the administrative process right now, I promise you, just get a piece of paper, write down all the clients, how many sessions you had, and just put it in a log. And then from there, just get the organization the way that you want. Don't let this be the distractor for you to actually get your accreditation. So the self-report application, and we'll go over this, but when you go to the ICF, and I'll show you the website, but when we go, it's going to ask for your training organization name. That's going to be on the drop-down. You're going to find Institute of Professional Excellence, and that's IPAC. The program name, it's going to be there. And the number of hours, it's 200, but it's actually more than 200. But if you just put 200, that gets you all the way to an MCC. So it's plenty of the time that coaching hours that you need, and when the start date of your program was. And the backup documentation is when you graduate from IPAC, you get your CPC, your Certified Professional Coach diploma. That's what the ICF needs to see. You either get that from a PDF, or if you're old school like me, back in the days, we got actually a paper. So you just scan that. But if you actually don't have it, you can contact student support, and they're really easy and fast on giving you guys your PDF for your CPC. Now, you're getting ready, you've gone through this whole paperwork, and you're getting ready to how do I focus to my CKA? So if you're right there, you're about to take your CKA, this is what you need to know. It's an open book test. There's nobody around. You're just you and your computer, and it's an open book. So here's what I suggest that you have open on your computer or you have printed. The Core Competencies. Right now, the ICF, if you're taking the test is still around the 11 coaching core competencies. I'll show that in a little bit. If you have followed my work, you know that I talk a lot about the new model of the ICF, which is the 8 coaching core competencies. They were supposed to go effective in January 2021. However, because of COVID and so many moving pieces, I just got the word from the ICF that I should still be teaching my mentees on the 11 coaching core competencies. So continue focusing. If you are taking your CKA, continue focus on the 11 coaching core competencies. So if you have the 11 coaching core competencies with the subcategories, so not just the coaching competency, with the subcategories, and then you have the code of ethics separate, then at that point, I can show you a trick on the exam that can help you go and see where the answer is. Also have in hand the definition of coaching. It is 155 multiple choice scenario-based questions. Those scenario-based questions are, I promise you, are going to be very intuitive to you. And I've had coaches that didn't pass, and I'll tell you why they didn't pass. It's an online system with 3-hour limit to complete in one session. So every coach that has not passed is because they didn't know that they had to have a calm environment, and they didn't know that it was going to take 3 hours. So they actually, you can't just finish and complete afterwards. You have to complete in one session. So I promise you, if you follow this this little guidance, I promise you, with all the coaching training that you have, you will pass your exam. So be in a relaxed environment without distractions. Plan ahead this 3 hours so you don't get interrupted. Have good internet connection. You'll get your immediate results, and you only need a 70% score to pass. If you don't pass, you retake it for $75. It's not a big deal. It's not that you have to pass or you fail. Okay, so let's talk about how to strategize when you're about to take your test. So the 5 broad domains that the ICF Core Competencies, the current module with the 11 coaching core competencies has, is divided in 5 domains. So you have, the first domain is setting the foundation. The second domain is co-creating the relationship. The third domain is communicating effectively. The fourth is facilitating learning and results. And the last one is coaching foundations and knowledge. So this really helps you. Knowing this category really helps you, because on the test, in the beginning of the test, it actually says setting the foundation, and then you have the questions. So you know that all those questions are going to be associated to the setting the foundation coaching core competencies. So you can just cross-reference. If sometimes they'll put a situation there are very equal response, but there's just one that aligns more with the competency. So it's very easy for you, like, okay, right now I'm on the setting the foundation quadrant. When I get there, I'm going to read the question. When I read the question, I'm going to cross-reference with the coaching core competencies that fall under that category, and it makes it really easy. So setting the foundation is where you talk about ethics and guidelines and professional standards, and also how to establish the coaching agreement. The other one is co-creating the relationship. It's when we talk about trust, intimacy with the client, and coaching presence. So the questions are going to be regarding those 2 competencies. When you go to the quadrant of communicating effectively, now you can cross-reference to what is active listening, powerful questioning, direct communication, and in each one of those competencies, there are small little sub-competencies, which we also call them markers. It's kind of, you get to know what is it that the ICF is looking for masterful coaching according to those competencies. And then the last one is facilitating learning results. This is going to come natural to you because you've been trained by IPAC. But that's the end of a coaching session where you really, the questions, the scenarios are planned according creating awareness. Am I creating awareness in my client? designing actions, planning and goal setting, and managing progress and accountability. It's just really that, how are you finishing the session, and what is the most effective way to finish a session that you're facilitating growth, facilitating the learning and the results according to those subcategories. Then there is the fifth domain. It is just coaching foundations. This is going to come natural to you, okay? It is just anything else that the ICF feels should be that is general about coaching. Those are not, I promise you that those questions are going to be so organic to you that it's just going to make sense. But if you didn't go through a training program, if you take that task, you just not know how to answer that. So those are just anything covers just like operational things about coaching or what coaching is and that type of stuff as far as come to coaching foundation. So the code of ethics, the things to remember and read it through is just really, they're going to throw some ethical questions for you, some ethical scenarios. And remember the definition of coaching. So you really know the difference between coaching, teaching, mentor, and consulting. Know what a client is, know what a sponsor is, know who the student is. Read about what is a potential conflict of interest, professional conduct, confidentiality, and the continued development that it really is about what we as coaches abide by, that we're constant developing ourselves to be on par with the competencies and coaching. So an example here, okay? So you're going to open your CKA test, 155 questions. It's your first hour, and it's going to say setting the foundation. So now I know that all the questions under that domain is under setting the foundation. I go to my coaching core competencies and I look at ethics and I look at establishing the coaching agreement. So those are the ones that are under foundation. So the question is, the client is a high energy manager with a generally positive outlook. Just before coming to the coaching session, the client was told that their responsibilities are about to drastically change and will no longer be doing the work they're passionate about. The client has come to the session in a particularly negative mood and has expressed the desire to address the situation during today's session. What is the best way for the coach to proceed? Remember, there's no wrong way, but there is a best way according to the coaching core competencies. So if I go to the coaching core competency and I read and I say establishing the coaching agreement is the ability to understand what is required in the specific coaching interaction and to come to agreement with the perspective and new client about the coaching process and relationship. So knowing this, answer A, ask the client about all of the potential positive outcomes from the situation. You see, there's nothing wrong. It would be a strategy that a coach would take. But let's read letter B. Remind the client that the agenda for the session was set at the end of last session. That answer doesn't really make sense because we know that even if you are the type of coach that likes your client to have agreements on what to coach, at the end of the day, it's their session, it's their agenda, it's them, they have to figure it out in each session. And C, explore the outcomes for the session and ensure that the client and coach are both clear on them. So that is the actual establishment, the coaching agreement. It's where you co-create with your client and you explore those outcomes, and then your client really picks the outcome that they want to work towards. Now let's explore D. Point out to the client how extremely important it is to be passionate about the work we do. Again, this is not the best way to approach because that's not validating the work and the emotions that the client is going through. And also it's not really, it's just giving advice to how your client should be feeling versus exploring outcomes that would be most beneficial for your client. So let's go to a different one. So the domain would be co-creating the relationship. So now I go into co-creating the relationship. I see which categories, which competencies are under that, and I have them pulled up. The question is, a client is explaining a situation to a coach who senses there is more that the client is not sharing, how should the coach approach the situation? Remember, we're talking about intimacy, trust with your client. So A, interrupt the client and ask for greater disclosure. I have definitely listened to sessions where it happens, you want to gain more insights and you feel that there's something else that the client is not saying. So you go immediately to asking for what they want to do. That's not what the ICF is asking us. The competency to really embody is to create the trust before going deeper. So let's check out B. Give the client the bottom line read on the situation. So you can give the bottom line read on the situation, but remember, you're trying to gain your client's trust and respect. So really ask the client's permission to probe a little deeper before you even go into that bottom line. This happens a lot in situations where, I coach a lot of therapists that are becoming coaches, and it's very easy. Sometimes it will be very easy for you to see the bottom line of what your client is working with. And it's very easy for you to project this theories on what might be going on. Before I even shared that with the client, I ask permission to probe a little deeper, so I get their buy-in before I go deeper into maybe a gremlin that they might be experiencing. So that's really the question, how to answer, the best way to answer this question. D would be give the client feedback on the importance of honesty in coaching. Again, those are all situations that it will happen, but the best one, according to establishing trust and intimacy, would be to ask permission to just go a little deeper with your client before actually exposing a gremlin for them. So let's talk about communicating effectively. So now I go under communication effectively. As an example, this one is related to active listening, which is the ability to focus completely what the client is saying and is not saying, to understand the meaning of what is said in the context of the client's desires, and to support client self-expression. This question specifically, when dealing with a client who brings many issues to the table, it is best for the coach to pick the option A, where the coach has the most expertise; B, of asking what the client would like to start with; C, that looks most likely to be handled in the time available; D, that the coach thinks can do the most good for the client. If you look under the subcategory under active listening, number 1 is attends to the client and the client's agenda, and not to the coach's agenda for the client. So the right answer, the best answer in this category would be asking what the client would like to start with. Facilitating learning and results, different one there. So an appropriate role for a coach in goal setting, planning, prioritizing with a client is A, critiquing and embellishing a client's goals; B, letting the client self-determine the need for goals; C, taking charge of the process to ensure it is completed accurately; or D, facilitating a process around the client's goal setting, planning, and prioritizing. So if we go under understanding what planning and goal setting, according to the module of the coaching core competencies, we look and we see it as the ability to develop and maintain an effective coaching plan with the client. If we go under the subcategory, consolidates collected information and establishes a coaching plan, coming back to coaching agreement, and development goals with the client that address concerns and major areas for learning and development. So that's why facilitating a process around the client's goal settings and planning and prioritizing, it would be the best answer under this question. And then we have coaching foundations and knowledge, and you're going to see this is going to be intuitive to you, I promise, okay? So every coaching conversation should include an action plan, an agenda identified by the client, review of the field work, summary by the coach of the client's progress. A coaching conversation can have all of those, but an action plan is not really necessary. The review of the field work is not really necessary. A summary by the coach of the client's progress is not really necessary. Those are things that you can add if that's your specialty, if that's your flavor as a coach. But what cannot not have would be the agenda identified by the client. So if there isn't a clear agenda, if there isn't a clear intention, then the coaching conversation is not productive. So that's where we would go, getting back to basics. So how to practice competencies: revisit, read the competencies once in a while. During mentorship, choose a competency you would like to get feedback on. So when we do feedback, when I listen to your sessions, I'm often asking the coaches, like, what competency do you want me to listen for? So we really see different ways for you to embody. So it's not that you're doing it wrong, it's just broaden your horizon to different ways to embody those coaching core competencies. So you really finesse your coaching presence. During your peer coaching, so choose a skill you would like to improve upon. It's so important. Like, this is really paid time. So when I have my peer coach, I actually ask her, like, hey, I'm going to try a different skill today. Would you give me feedback at the end? So we have a session, I try a different skill. So she is my partner that I can count on to get feedback as a client. So really practice that on your barter coaching. Utilize the best way to be effective on your career growth. And then join competencies focused coach sessions. I do a lot of those. I'm always posting here for you guys. Join some of those sessions if you guys want. Get more positive feedback and coach more. Really coach more. Let me see. Oh, any questions before I open my screen? Any questions there, Greg?
Yeah, we do. Tracy was the first one to pop a question in the chat. Tracy's question is, what if you're having difficulty with getting one of your fellow classmates from IPEC program to fill out the release consent form? So this is the peer coaching assignment that the school gave us. So she's coached her for 12 sessions. I thought because the program was already designed for 12 sessions of peer coaching each between mod 1 and 2 and 2 and 3, that was it. You were granted those coaching hours. Do you need a consent form?
Question. I'm not sure how I would answer that. So I would suggest student support is great for that. I would just suggest, like, ask student support. That's more of a technical school question.
I thought that in order to get your ICF, that you had to give them names and emails in case they wanted to check some of your clients. And so that's what I meant it for. I can't seem to get her the release form.
I will share with you that what I did is I included my IPEC work in my coach log. So I show my assignments from IPEC on my log, and the log is really only if they audit you. It's just for you to track hours. So this is really on your own accord reporting with the ICF. So you already know you did those hours. I suggest not only reaching out to IPEC just to double check, but I put them right into my log. Those are the first 2 entries I have. Loretta did share with us that the core competencies info for the test, to study for the test, is on the ICF website. Of course, all of this information that we're sharing is on the ICF website. So thank you, Loretta, for pointing that out as well.
Guys, you actually go to coachingfederation.org. You click on ICF Credential. And then if you're taking your ACC path, you click on ACC path, and you can see there are 3 paths. There's the ACTP. That's what IPAC is. It's an accredited program. So don't even worry about the other ones. And I know that this gets confusing, so I just always reiterate, it's ACTP, okay?
This is a big point, Elle. For coaches, is this ACTP. And ACTP stands for Accredited Coach Training Program. So just remember that when you're making your application, it's under the ACTP link. Okay, you get these other 2 over here. Always pick ACTP because that's what IPEC is. So I just wanted to hammer that home because it's really confused. Coaches, they can't even get started on their application because that initial thing blocks them. They're like, I have no idea.
It actually paralyzed me for a year because I didn't even know where to get this information. So I share it all the time. I promise you, just click on the ACTP and that's where you go. So let me share you a sample PDF of what it looks like. So when you're doing your accreditation, this is what's going to look like. And again, this is all on the ICF website. So if you want to get more familiar, just click on the ICF website, and you don't have to be a member to even go through this. You can do this and not be a member of the ICF, okay? So you're looking at the ACTP training, then you have the client coaching experience, and then you do your CKA exam. So once you submit all of this, then from there, it's gonna ask you how many training hours. You can put 200 there, which will be like up here. When you started, and this is where you're going to get your training organization name, program name, number of hours, which will be 200, program start date, and then you put your backup document right there. I want to share that there really isn't, when people say, what is the point of being a member of the ICF? Because you can be accredited with being a member. So it's really up to you to choose if that is something that you want to or not. For me, what was important is once I'm a member, I can also choose a chapter. And in these chapters, it's a little bit more intimate. So I get to connect with people within the same state. And then within the same state, I'm connecting. And if you have an active chapter, they also give a lot of training. And those trainings also give some credits. So my coaching mindset, it's always excited about new coaching material, and it's just incorporated into that chapter. The other thing is you will also be part of a community that you have access to continue education as far as mentorship. So you have different access to continue education, networking, and you also have the ability to promote within their website. So those are things to consider if you really want. For me, what I really enjoyed is that I really met great people, and I met great networking and clients and referral program. So that just really helped me for what I enjoy. And then to be part of the board with the ICF, or be part on any of the volunteer programs with the ICF, I really like to be involved. So I do need to be an active member. So that's what was important to me. But you don't have to be a member to be an accredited coach. You can pay for your accreditation without being a member. You just have to make those costs make sense to you.
I did receive one. It was a question about the peer assignments in IPEC, and do those count towards the total of 8 clients? And the answer is yes. The first 2 assignments you get in IPEC count towards your 8. So when you graduate, you only need 6 more clients. Paid clients. So yes, you already have 2. They go under your pro bono hours, and then that'll be 24 pro bono. You need 25. So where's that other one come from? It can come from your debriefs on your Eli assessments. Those are also pro bono. So throw in 1 pro bono hour to make it 25, and then you just need the 75 paid coaching hours after that from 6 more clients.
Yes, I think that you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you said 30 can be pro bono and 70 paid. Oh, okay. I just heard Greg say 75 and 25, but
that's what normally is, but they're helping because they know that a lot of coaches have lost some clients this year due to COVID. So they're
okay. Great. Yeah, I thought I just want to confirm that I heard that correctly. And also you said at least 25 hours must be in the last 18 months for the ACC. And so other hours maybe further back, longer ago?
Right.
Okay.
I had a period of time. I took a year and something off. So I had to count hours. I had hours that counted from 3-4 years ago, but I had to make sure that there were some active hours from the last 18 months.
Great. Thank you.
That's a great question, Deb. For those of you that may have missed it, I put a link in the comments to a spreadsheet. I went ahead and put together a spreadsheet for each level, ACC, PCC, MCC. And I basically went to the website on ICF and I consolidated all the info under each one of those levels. So you can see, and the minimum paid coaching hours typically are 75 and then pro bono 25, but through 12/31 of this year due to COVID, it changed to 70/30. And you'll see that on that spreadsheet. So I've spelled all of this out. It shows you the minimum clients you need, the minimum hours you need, and all of that. So hopefully this spreadsheet is a great reference for you just to spot check where you're at, just in case you're wondering. So grab a copy of that Excel spreadsheet. I made it for all of you guys, and I am going to post it in the Facebook page as well.
And Charlotte, thank you so much for your post regarding the changes. The temporary extension for coaches who apply to ACC by December 31st this year is 25 hours within 24 months. So they're just extending the time there. Thanks for that, Charlotte.
I have a question. So I know there isn't really a practice where you can practice the test. I'm curious if you guys have that, because I did take that and I want to take it again. So but I want to practice before I know there's nothing to practice.
Yeah, there isn't, but there are a couple of flashcards that you can Google.
But here's my word of caution with anything anybody posts out there. Please use it as a review or just to become aware. Do not use it as gospel, because if they posted it wrong or they made an error, you can't be mad at them. But you get an idea of the feel of what the test might be like. I take mine on Sunday. I've been studying these and I feel more confident already.
Awesome, Chris. Thank you.
So, Chris, question, are you saying that these are not accurate? Is it kind of close enough? Is that what you're saying?
Now, what I'm saying is anytime somebody posts something on the internet, do not go as they're not the source. This is somebody's thought process. So it gives you an idea of what you might see. I'm just hoping. Now, sometimes people will literally rock out of any exam and they'll write down everything they remember and it helps. I don't know, but this gives me an idea where it could take off.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's a great point, Chris. This is Cindy Hoy. I think what I found, what it helped me was think about test questions. And what I did is I used my IPEC books to kind of explore key areas and just help me think about the questions. Because sometimes they're situational. And so you can kind of look at your resource and then deep dive and better understand it because it's contextual. So it was really helpful. And I do agree, because there were a couple things that I didn't necessarily agree, or our training didn't support the way the answers that they had.
I have a quick question. What did you say about the video requirement? We are not obligated to do that as an IPEC student?
Because you did that already.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I just have a lot of students from other schools that need mentor hours. So then you have to submit a video. So we prep for their video.
Okay.
To do that.
Good to know.
Yeah. Because I know that as you go through the process, some questions are going to arise. I want to make sure that I'm easily accessible on Facebook or email. Feel free to reach out. And if you wanted some feedback on your sessions and you wanted to kind of match your sessions to some of the competencies or find different ways, or even if you're not too sure and you just want to see what's really unique about you, I think that's just really where I enjoy doing it too. And that's my strength as a mentor coach, is see where you're actually doing the competencies really well and just focusing on that, and everything else kind of comes together. So if you need anything, you have your 2 sessions, they're free, they're included on your membership. Just reach out and let's get going.
Yeah, so I've gotten a lot of questions from coaches on how do they engage in this benefit from the Helping Hand. Just go to the Helping Hands website. It's Helping Hand, the number 4 coaches. There's a tab at the very top that says mentor coaching. If you click on there, there's a request form. Just say, I want to do mentor coaching. What that does is it sends me a message and I verify the coaches to make sure they're current in the program. And if you are, I send you the link to schedule your time with either Elle or Stacy Campisi. You pick. And it also gives you some other guidance on the recording. There's a script you need to say. And there's also a form that you have to have your client sign to release them. We need to have those 2 things in place. And that link I send you will have all of that information. So simply just request it. Go to the website, click on mentor coaching, and send me a request saying I want to do mentor coaching, and I'll get you all set up and we'll get you rocking and rolling. Elle, nicely done. Way to wrap up September for us. This is very timely. We're going to kick off October with Jen and Karen next Monday. So on October 5th from 4 to 5:30, they're coming back to the Helping Hand to do another Art of the Question training. You've been in it before, you know how awesome it is. And if you have not been to it, make sure you attend. And then I did speak to Barb and I've confirmed the monthly Coach Bowl is going to be on the 21st of October at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And of course, that one will also be recorded. I do need coaches and I need a client. So if you're game, if you're ready to jump in the bowl, just send me an email and say, put me in, coach. All right. Elle, I want to thank you again for your time. Appreciate the inside scoop on getting ready to get our certification through ICF for ACC. Very helpful information. So thank you all, coaches, for your time tonight. I hope you found this helpful.
Thank you, Greg.
Have a great day. Have a great week. See you soon.